as he seeks a mandate for his fragile coalition. There is another important thing, he says. 5 months ago, the President of the Republic, Giorgio Napolitano, who has the thanks of the whole country, and you can see there applause from what looks to be right the way across the Senate. Giorgio Napolitano, of course, decided to stay on. He's 87 years old, but he put off retirement because of the political crisis, but he is desperate to see the government stay in power and avoid new elections. Enrico Letta is saying the President invited the chamber to be witnesses and to express national cohesion and invite all those who've been elected. A unique thing in Italian political history, to have the dignity to give their love to these institutions. These words of the President were universally welcomed with an ovation, all that in the wake of months. In the months we've seen since, we've got the support of the government to really solve the problems of people in the street. And we want confidence in politics, to be able to reform the political machine and to show also to the outside world the image of a country that's trustworthy. The government, we know that it's a very narrow, difficult path that we're following. All ministers are trying to pursue an efficient path without retreating into own political trenches, thinking of the national interests. And we've done that in an incredible way, even in difficult situations and where there's misunderstanding. We are there to help Italians, and Italians will tell us very strongly that we will no longer support. We've had enough of these political struggles. We must have the courage to change. We must be firm. We must face up to our adversary without dirtying our reputation. We must not have fear. We must not be afraid of confrontation with other people's ideas. As for me, working with ministers, politicians from other parties, different parties, who have different ideas, I can appreciate and witness and pay testimony to what we've seen across all political sectors which are not like mine, other factions, and my testimony, what I've witnessed has been excellent. They are representatives of a crucial debate which we need to bring forward. We mustn't be afraid of debate because the objective concerns the country. The essential thing are the institutions in each government act. Each painful passage, I've always had next to me the senators in the House, and I reply in the first person. I've done this 15 times in the face of, in front of the chamber. We have for the first time today a system that's transparent, totally transparent. That's the wish of popular sovereignty, that's the love for the institutions, and it's something that's within our culture and our history, our political history. We could make this live and die. The unity of political action, that is the best way to face up to this complex situation. And these situations which are often contradictory. Naturally, everything concerns the judicial difficulties of Silvio Berlusconi, the crescendo of problems. The history of the courts Berlusconi's passage through the courts has affected us here. And a week ago, we saw a situation that's intolerable, which brings us here today to outline the differences between the government's action, which must serve the whole of Italy, and the other situation, which is Berlusconi's situation, which must not be put on the same platform. Our country is based on the principle of legality. In a democratic state, the sentences must be respected. Each one has the right, of course, to defend himself in an efficient way without laws concerning individual people. Laws must be recognized, and it's up to each and concerning each politician. Dear Senators, this government can continue to survive and do good if it's convincing and there's an act with a pact day by day in a perspective that's well targeted on the problems of families and Italian businesses. All the rest, the daily threats, debates, attacks are only going to create chaos, instability, and will touch political instability like we're seeing here, that we are in the act of living now, what we're going through now. I've talked of stability, Italy's international stability, which in these moments has been put into total crisis. In the Republic from 1945 to 1968, we had a political stability which was agreeable. From 46 to 68, our leaders managed the government majority. All Italians remember the benefits of that period. Economic boom, growth, 100% every year. The public deficit was minimal. So, between 1968 and 92, we had 24 governments with a development that was awful. Italy had to give money to continue development, and the phase which followed 1992 was even more a phase of growth. From 92 until today, we've had 14 governments, and it was a pitiful situation. In Germany, for instance, in contrast, you've only had 3 leaders. So, what's important in the confrontation with other European democracies, policies for growth, for development, need to lie alongside stable governments. The landscape must be that of courage, and even because, especially because the choices are painful. There are painful choices to be made. Going to the polls is not good. It shows the difficulty of the markets. Also, we risk finding ourselves in the same impasse. It's not only the force of the opposition which is struggling and does not share our ideas, but it's the forces of the majority which is in crisis, which will begin a crisis. The crisis risks getting worse. It'll be a real burden for the country, for companies, of people who are waiting to be helped to pull through the crisis. Italy wants, like abroad, countries who can't correct themselves, who try to manage the crisis in the markets. All that today brings us to renounce reforms of the institutions. It's fundamental, the law on the vote, the excesses of political excesses. Today we can reform the law which we have launched, must be put in place rapidly, and this can support again the country to help the Italian people. We have a deadline. If we stay in crisis, we risk going to the country to holding new elections, which would again pick up, bring results which could solve our crisis. All these different coalitions who want to form part of the government, even more complicated, will make things worse. In 5 months, we've anticipated things. The committee, the Wise Men's Committee, made a proposal in committee for balance, without touching the principles, or the basic principles of the Italian constitution. But we have to bring out these principles which can improve political power in Italy. How to reduce the number of parliamentary senators. Today, we are in a condition of we are blocked from making decisions. To reform the system, we can really arrive at that objective. We can really attain that objective. We can, in matters of parliamentary debate, we see a law for the elections which can give to the people, to citizens, the power of deciding really who they send into power. It's in respect for the community, in the respect of the community, in respect for the Republic. The government wants to follow in an active way this parliamentary path in a concrete manner and modify the old electoral law which doesn't work, to avoid the country finding itself in yet another election without resolving the problems. That's a path which is not against the Italian political map. Dear senators, we can win. I say it to everybody that I meet. This is valid for the reform of the institutions, for the economy, for society. The economy is more or less stable in Italy. We have behind us the nightmare of instability and the recession which hit hard. Italy has lost 8 points of growth of national products. We've had a lot of people out of work, a tsunami in social life, which has brought anguish and sadness and despair, and we must understand the importance of our political action. And what we do today can once again make things worse. We must avoid that. We must plead for a political, an economic policy which supports the necessity to support the economy, limit the divisions, the factors which limit growth. The government has put 12 billion euros behind this new measure. All that has been managed, dealt with dialogue with the different partners and the unions. So it's important that these documents are accepted by companies and unions. In 2014, we will be able to improve gross domestic product by 1%, show that the Italian politics is changing, and not stop the restructuring of public finances, public spending, which also reacts to countries' global deficits. This government has brought out in June a procedure which the European Commission brought upon us. We can show that we're serious in our attitude, and deficit will not be more than 3%. The European conventions on this, the European rules will be respected thanks to the measures which we must adopt. In the last 5 months, dear senators, we've supported the economy, first with speeding up of paying off our debt, of the institutions towards companies, towards business. That we have brought in week by week. 12 billion euros have been given back to companies. In 2014, we can complete this process. Obviously, a weak government can only operate on a go-slow. We must also reduce the cost of energy. We must continue intervening to help small companies. small businesses. In 5 months, we've also brought in laws to support the building sector. That is to launch constructions and support internal demand. These are actions which will be followed through at the end of the year. I cannot continue with this list, but we are not a government that hasn't moved. We have moved in all domains, critical domains of the country, which who asks for a bill must have the interests in making that bill valid and transparent. Who speaks here of a government which has thrown back problems does not tell the truth. We have relaunched work and the country. Who speaks of a government which does not go quickly? I'm going to show you 100 projects relaunched and launched in the last 5 years for temporary workers, those who've been made redundant, those who are afraid of not having work or who are out of work, those who work in culture, those who need to rebuild their houses, to build houses, those who are in difficulty. I show 5,000, I can show you 5,000 new jobs. I'm speaking also of those who have been welcomed in Italian society, not like an adoptive son. I can continue. We're not talk of serious things we have tackled in over 5 months, all different dossiers, programs for houses given to the people, to the law, for women, the school buildings, interventions to fight poverty, defiscalization for social work. When other solutions couldn't help them, we have chosen to show a parliamentary path to solve problems as soon as possible. All this spirit will guide us in the future if we continue to be careful and with our policies. The law on stability, which must plan for growth, also reduce taxes. It's a priority, that utmost importance. It's the path we've chosen over in taxes on houses. We want to put our records we want to put our records of our global government action. There is not, there'll be no cut. We are not going to, there are no simple matters here. We cannot continue. Well, we're going to break away from Enrico Letta, who has been speaking, as you've heard, for the last 20 minutes or so. He has obviously put forward a powerful argument for senators to vote to keep his coalition going. Remember, he's facing this threat from Silvio Berlusconi's party to break away from the coalition, and we wait eagerly to see how that vote will carry out over the next couple of hours. Stay with us on this. It should come to a conclusion in the next few hours.
Fatti, non annunci. In questi 5 mesi